What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and we're diving into more of the New York Jets 2025 undrafted free agent class, kicking things off today with Kansas wide receiver Quentin Skinner, and just overall checking him out, seeing what he's been about, what the profile is. This feels like Aaron Glenn's version of Irv Charles as a taller guy, quicker, doesn't have the same kind of play strength and stuff that he has, but a special teams monster, at least in terms of how he was used at Kansas, and maybe the second or third most likely UDFA to make the roster if he's able to impress enough over this offseason. But coming in at 6'5", 195 pounds, this is a former two-star recruit. Didn't really get ranked nationally. I don't think he got a ton of attention, and a lot of that is due to a senior year that he ended up being significantly injured in. But two-way player in high school. He played wide receiver, he played DB as well, and he also has a track and field background as a high jumper, which makes sense given just the elite jumping ability and what he can produce out there, especially at his size. Now, he's only been at Kansas. You guys know I have an affinity for people that can build within a program. And that injury that he had his senior year of high school was a season-ending knee injury. So not only would there have been cause for concern with him getting to the next level, but obviously you're talking about him missing a chunk of his rookie year as well. But there's some things to really like about his game right now. This is someone that was used all over the place. He lined up at the X spot, lined up at Z. They even placed him inside at the slot. He's bringing a great catch radius, right? This is a guy, long wingspan, long arms. You combine that with his ability to jump out the gym. Kind of just the perfect, I guess, big man weapon, if you will, if you were to try to craft somebody up in a lab. Plus run blocking ability. At this point, you have to imagine there's been an emphasis on this skill set for any of the wide receivers that the New York Jets brought in. Arian Smith was touted as this. Quentin Skinner touted as this. And so I think even when you look at like top 30 visits and stuff, right, guys that we had pegged as being a wide receiver option on day 2, day 3, a lot of those guys have plus run blocking ability. I think he's a little bit looser of an athlete than you generally expect for somebody with his build as well. So I think the hip flexibility is there. I don't think he always unlocks it and is able to lean into that, but you do see examples of him being able to sink his hips and then explode out of some of his route breaks. I think he diversifies his route tempo and speed adequately enough for someone that's just not looked at as a deep threat or even just a possession receiver. He's also aware of how to sync his route tree and the depth of his timing with the quarterback drop, right? If they're taking a 3, a 5, a 7-step drop, you talk about these timing-based offenses when they're looking to get something out, and you're talking about these football-specific scenarios, right? It's 3rd and long. We need to make sure that we're trying to convert here without forcing the issue. He's going to be a guy that's always going to get to his landmarks on time, and whether he's open, whether it's a contested catch situation or not, that's going to be up for debate and stuff. But he's not a guy that's going to get caught out of position many times. So love the IQ, love the attention to detail there from him. I think he does a great job with the body control. Again, when you talk about some of these bigger, taller guys, there can be an affinity for them just being stiff, kind of being locked up, right? The movements kind of feel bulky, and I think about the guys that are like super beefed up at the gym and they kind of have to, move like this all in, one phase. But with him, I think you see a pretty good variety of him being able to keep his hips on the swivel, him being able to contort his body in any manner of ways, and that leans into the fact that he's already displayed a ton of NFL caliber boundary catches, right? Toe taps on the sideline, the occasional 1 foot that he's getting in, but generally he understands how to use that length, how to use that catch span, how to use that catch radius and such, and he's going to make sure that he can secure that ball. So this is a guy that if you're a quarterback, you are just drooling over some of these back shoulder throws that you should be able to get away with more often than not if you're throwing in Quentin Skinner's direction. I think he also has very underrated speed, right? If you give him a free release, it's not that much of a far-fetched idea to say that he can take it to the house, right? He's going to be a home run threat on those situations where you think that you're just going to recover and get a chance to catch him. So I love that aspect to it, right? And for reference here, he ran a 4.51 at his pro day with Kansas. I think it was like the 8th fastest time of that day. But again, considering he's just shy of 200 pounds and 6'5", and is a long strider, right? This isn't a guy that you're seeing take elite short steps or has a upper tier acceleration. But if he can get, a free release, and again, you're talking about by the time he gets to that 15-yard line, it's going to be a pretty rough day for anybody that's trying to get back into phase against him. And I love the fact that he can maintain the catch through the contact. He's not one of these big mans that plays at a much smaller size or anything. I think he actually shows a pretty good ability to be able to fight off contact, or for guys trying to punch through the arms or hands, or even get the rare occasion close to the football. At times that you're talking about him high pointing things, he makes sure that he's going to secure that. And it's something that I love to see on his film. And then just overall, the biggest piece about kind of comparing him to Herb Charles in a way, or at least alluding to him being his replacement, is that he has experience on all kick and punt return units as well as the coverage units. In fact, he's had over 250 snaps on special teams, which is pretty significant. So this isn't a guy that I expect to walk into rookie minicamp or training camp and look out of place. I think that's the first instance, for example, where you actually hear his name probably come up when we start talking about those recap videos and such. There's going to be things to work with, right? Obviously, there's never been a huge game or anything for him. In fact, 2024 had 25 catches for 557 yards and 4 touchdowns. There is interesting for him in just how he was utilized, right? So one of the stats that are going to pop out here is that over 50% of the passes that came his way were over 20 plus yards down the field, which was the 6th highest percentage in 2024 among the draft class. So this is a guy that is accustomed to making big plays, right? Over 20 yards per catch. I want to say in 2024 and over the course of his career. So he knows how to go out there and make sure that his impact is felt. Kind of boomer bust. There's been a couple of games where he's had 0 catches and stuff, which leads us into some of the concerns, right? Doesn't hand fight enough versus jam. So when you look at him, you're going to look at kind of like a Sauce Gardner in a way, right? Tall, lanky, wiry frame. I think with Sauce, though, there's a level of, I guess, solid enough, adequate strength with him. With Skinner, I don't think you always get that feeling, and so you can hold him up at the line of scrimmage maybe a little bit longer than should be necessary while he, and I think he needs to get acclimated to being able to do some of that hand fighting within the first 5 yards of scrimmage. Choppy steps during this release. So this is a huge, I tend to pick up on this a lot just because it was a pet peeve of mine when I was playing ball, in that generally you're going north or south, east, west, right? And so there's different variations of how you want to get your release packages set up. And so when you're talking about north and south, you should be exploding out of your stance and not necessarily looking like you're, trying to pull off a dribble move or anything. And that's not to say you can't get away with that, or that's not even an effective use of movement, but considering the frame and some of those attributes when it comes to speed and stuff with him, he's a guy that should be able to outfight a lot of those issues. And so some of those false steps you're going to see is something that NFL DBs will take advantage of. There's an injury scare factor to him. Now, he hasn't had anything major since that high school season-ending knee injury, but when I look at him, I get the same feeling I used to get watching Elijah Moore catch anything over, 10 yards deep, especially if it was over the middle of the field, where people are headhunting, and not saying they're targeting the head specifically, but any blow to that man looks extremely scary. So this is a guy that you want him to be able to pack some muscle onto, and hopefully he can withstand some more of the rigors. Being tall and lanky isn't necessarily the best thing in my personal opinion. Strength concerns, we've kind of touched on this, but you're going to see it come up in a few areas. Being able to maintain his blocks, while he is a plus guy, I don't think that he's always keeping his guy engaged as long as he could to spring a few more open plays. You're going to see him having struggle playing through contact to a certain degree and being able to escape press at the line of scrimmage. And then ultimately, while I think he does a good job being able to find some of those soft shells in zone coverage, you do see him drift into DBs and into kind of covering himself to a certain degree, which you just want him to be a little bit more acute and aware of kind of situationally what's happening, right? So if I had to throw a dart at a comp for him, I would say you're probably looking at like the poor man's Troy Franklin, to a certain degree. But let me know what you guys think. I've heard a lot of people that were pretty excited about him. So looking forward to hearing you guys' comments. I'll catch you guys again. Peace.